Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our Western Heights Church podcast. My name is Terrance, and I'm the youth and family minister here at Western Heights. I'm joined by Rusty, the associate minister, and we are joined with an unusual morning episode by a very special guest who I'm actually really excited to talk to uh, this group of people together because he grew up at Western Heights. He's a Western Heights lifer. He had Rusty as a youth minister, and he has actually served for a little while as a youth minister. We are joined by Junior Jaimes. Yay!
Yeah,
So
somebody
cue the
yelled.
fanfare sound. I don't know what happened to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so really, I'm kind of interested because between the three of us, you kind of have there's a very, I think, unique grouping of perspectives that we have right here on youth and serving the youth, being in the youth, that sort of thing. So when you did grow up here, right? How old were you when you first came here?
No, I was going to seventh grade. So when
Oh,
the
okay.
summer before my seventh grade year, we came to Western Heights.
That's right, because we've talked about this, but you were at Gunner first
I
before
was at
coming here.
Hilltop Haven before
Yes.
we came
Uh-huh.
to Western Heights. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. So 7th or 8th grade, Rusty's the youth minister, right?
Correct.
So what was middle school junior's impressions of youth minister Rusty, other than he was already old?
Well, it was different. It was different because I came from a small church and there was only one minister at that other church. So when I came to Western Heights, and it wasn't just the Rusty effect, to tell you the honest truth, because I came during the summer, which meant I also got to meet the interns. And so what I went from not having any form of youth ministry or anything like that, all of a sudden there's like three people heavily involved with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and that was it was really awesome just because I did get to spend a lot of time with those first interns, but it was more towards when they left, and then Rusty stuck around. I was like, oh, okay, so Rusty is, and my understanding started to develop of like, oh, Rusty is not just a temporary individual either. He's not necessarily going to be an adult that was involved heavily. No, he is going to continue to be involved in what we're doing.
He's the dude.
He's the
He's going to
dude.
be
Yeah.
the main guy.
And that was great just because for once again, coming from a small church, it was a lot of parent activity. If the parents didn't plan anything, nothing happened, and we could have gone years without an event. Then we have Rusty, who not only was planning and organizing things, but also took us out to eat. And that was one of the first interactions I ever had with Rusty. Was he took me out to Taco Bell, took our whole family out to Taco Bell. And so I got to know him. I got to understand, like, oh, hey, here's a guy that legitimately is wanting to be involved in our lives. So
That's cool. That's actually kind of neat. Should we ask Rusty what he remembers about 8th grade junior?
Yes. And Junior, you said that Kent and Jessica were the interns that summer. So,
yes.
yeah. Yes. Here's what I remember. I remember taking Junior and his sister and his brother to Taco Bell
Why Taco Bell, Rusty?
because they loved going to Taco Bell.
Hold on, real quick. My Richie in particular was pretty picky eater, and everyone knew he liked Taco Bell. And as a family, I had to eat so much Taco Bell because of that reason. I've nothing against Taco. I
So-
like Taco Bell, but I don't think you realize how much Taco Bell I had to eat in my life.
Because of your
Yes.
brother?
Yes. So that's where we went. We went to Taco Bell on Texoma Parkway. And what I do remember is looking at Junior while we were sitting there and saying, Junior, why do you always look so angry?
Yeah.
Because he just had an angry face. He goes, I'm not angry. I said, but you kind of look angry. I look angry? Yeah, kind of.
Huh. He doesn't strike me as an angry-faced person. That's interesting. I guess he's fixed it over the years.
Well, he wasn't an angry person. That's not what it was. It just he looked like he had an angry face on. So I think maybe
you
he
sat
was
him
just
down
trying to
for
concentrate.
lunch and were like, Junior, why do you have so much anger inside?
He was trying to concentrate. I
I'm
think is
pretty
what it
happy.
was. He was pretty happy. Yeah.
No, that's what I find ironic about that statement is Junior has a very happy-go-lucky disposition, if anything, I feel like.
Mhm.
So you grew up in the youth group. You remember the first couple interns. You get into high school. For those who I guess can't do math or don't know you that well, what was kind of the range of time that you were in the youth group?
Man, well, I would probably say one of the sadder things about going through youth group, I was not as involved as I should have been in middle school and
Hmm.
when I look back, I realized, you know what, I really wasn't as involved. Um, it wasn't probably until more likely my sophomore year. I remember doing some
Uh-huh.
freshman things, but it probably wasn't until my sophomore year that I really started to be involved with the youth group. Um,
Hmm.
and that was I mean, there was the group was really big back then. There was a lot of good people in there, and a lot of people that I knew from both school and previous church from Hilltop. So it was a good place. It's just in a very comical way. When I used to go to Hilltop Haven, I did a lot more because there wasn't a youth group. I was involved a lot with the actual church and doing
Right.
communion, handing out things like that. So I didn't really feel comfortable, and I hate to say that, but at first I did not feel completely comfortable with kind of the idea of youth group.
Huh.
um, and so I did enjoy being with. I enjoyed being with younger people. I enjoyed being with kids when I was back with the kid when I was a kid myself. But once again, when I look back, I just start to kind of realize I should have been more involved than. So sophomore years when I really started to feel like I was more of a part of youth group than before. So
Hmm.
That's fascinating. That's interesting. So you get more involved in high school. What year did you graduate high school?
I graduated '09 from high school.
Oh nine. And Rusty, when did you officially kind of step away from youth ministry into the associate role?
The summer of 2013.
13. So near kind of the ending years of the first time you stepped away. So you graduate from youth group. You went to OC, right? That's where you and Miranda eventually met.
No.
No, I went to ACU and she went to OC.
Oh, I thought you both
We
went to
met.
OC.
No,
Okay.
we
No.
met after. Well, technically, we met in high school. Our both of our churches went on the same Mexico mission trip, and it wasn't until
Oh,
Miranda moved into the Sherman area, and she got a job here at the local news at the Herald Democrat. And when Rusty was talking to her, she was just kind of saying like, "Yes, I went to this church. We did this thing." And Rusty, with his memory, is like, we
I
were
know
in
you.
Mexico together."
Yeah.
And so that afternoon, when she was kind of mentioning it in the young professionals group, she started mentioning that, and so we decided to look through our photos, and it's just kind of those comical thing because
Uh-huh.
we in our photos of that mission trip, we're in each other's backgrounds.
You and
There's
Miranda.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
she took a photo with her friend just as a selfie, and then me and Austin Hoover are messing around in the background. And so there's a
That's
bunch
so
of random
funny.
photos that we have like that where we're there at the same time in high school and just didn't realize we'd run into each other later on in life. So
Now, the director of the children's home that we had gone to in Mexico,
mhm.
they always had a Bible Bowl challenge when groups came out, and so he'd have his kids from the children's home challenge the youth groups that came. So
Yeah.
Miranda's church, our church, and the kids from the children's home, de la Esperanza.
Are you telling
Um,
me you had a Bible quiz between kids who grew up in church and kids that didn't grow up with a family?
Yeah.
but these
That feels
kids knew
kinda
their
mean.
Bibles. No,
That feels
it
really
was
mean.
They knew their
these
Bibles,
they knew
but
their Bibles. In fact, so here's what would happen. Whoever lost got sprayed by like a hose down by the other teams, right? Isn't that how it was?
no, yeah,
Something like that.
they
Oh
got
my
the
gosh.
winners got to hose the other two teams
The other
down.
two teams, yeah, the
Or
other two teams down. So Miranda's team won. So Miranda was a part of that team. So she was able to hose down Junior and
and a
All
bunch
his
of
little
Dave, but
friends.
yeah. And
And
so
exactly.
I
That's what I'm like,
know.
this is
And
awful.
Junior was really he didn't like it because there were some things
No,
that he
no,
didn't
no.
think was fair.
It
Junior
wasn't
probably
me.
didn't like that they were
There were
hosing down
some
the
Who was
orphans,
it? Maybe it wasn't you. Who was it?
there were some other people, and I'm not necessarily going to mention them by name, but
Okay.
there were some
which
people in
means
our
they still
group.
go here.
Well, we had just done our Bible quiz that same year with LTC, and the group of people that I did it with that year, I don't want to over exaggerate, but there was a chance that we probably didn't miss a single answer on the entire quiz because those girls were
Ooh.
determined. I loved Bible quiz, so we were on this high of there's no way we're going to get this wrong. And what ended up happening, and of course, depending on who you're talking to, it's a different story. But the issue is that we feel that the goal is always to let the orphanage win. And so the thing that got those people in my group really upset was the question that the Miranda's group, which we feel they shouldn't have been asked, they got asked the questions like, what's the first book in the New Testament? And then we got asked, it's like, what was the fifth city that the Israelites conquered? And so I just kind of, I wasn't too thrilled. I was not happy about losing because I don't like losing. But there were some people in my group that were not happy at all
Very
because they
unhappy.
legitimately felt like it was rigged. But the rigging went the wrong way. And we were all, and of course, like we knew the church, we were becoming friends. But now all of a sudden, these people are boasting and bragging that they beat us. It did not go well for some people in our group.
That's
So
actually hilarious. So that was you and Miranda's first impression. She somehow gets over that, decides she still likes you.
I had to get over it.
Oh, he had to get
She's
over
the
it.
one that got to hose me down.
Yeah.
She hosed you down.
He had to get over it.
So that is actually when she established you the pecking order that you guys would have in your relationship, apparently.
Absolutely. Yeah.
She's in charge.
So you go off to ACU. Did you do like a ministry or Bible major or anything at ACU that made you kind of
No,
want to come back and be involved, or just
no, it was that
coincidence?
comical thing. I just once again going back to like the hilltop. I give a lot of credit to the Gramps, and it's kind of something I've kind of shared with people before. Is that for the most part, I when I enter a room, my natural desire is to actually go into a corner and not try to talk to anybody. But the Gramps in my youth always forced me to I was not allowed not to go talk to people. I had, even if you guys have heard me sing, I'm not necessarily the best of singer, but Johnny put me up on front of the stage and made me lead singing at church before, so there's kind of a mindset. It's like, you're going to serve. And kind of going into ACU, I never planned in my life to necessarily be involved with ministry. Or let me restate that. I didn't plan to be a minister. I was thinking I was going to be doing something else with my life. And so when I was at school, yeah, I mean, I didn't know what that was. And I went like the first 3 years of my college career undecided.
Okay. So you come back from ACU. When and how did you end up as the interim? So for those who are unfamiliar with the timeline, at least as I have kind of constructed it being new here, Rusty was the youth minister, and then after Rusty was Chris. And were you between Chris and Adam?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The first time I was between, so pretty much when Chris would left, there was a, a kind of a void, and I I'm pretty sure it was Don Keene. I went to Don Keene and I kind of just went up to him and said, "Hey, with not having a youth minister and we're going through the searching process, um, I could see an unfortunate thing where things just kind of get lost or
Yeah.
things don't
Yeah.
get planned out. And so I would just like to kind of take on that responsibility to help get that organized and have someone have a name behind needs to make sure these things get taken care of. And huge part of that was just making sure that they understood, and give them time. Like the idea is that I don't want them to feel rushed to get another youth minister. Let's have someone, give them opportune time, give the search committee the ability to find someone that could best fit our church. And
Nice.
and there's another thing, because the more I look back about it, because especially before you, I just want to make sure that like Rusty was very much involved back then too.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so Rusty did a lot back then, and in the same way that he's done when he was youth minister, and when he had to this last time that we were both kind of serving in that position. Rusty's name, so I understand, but at the same time, I feel like his name gets left out too much when we talk about that first interim section. So
No,
That's
Junior did a lot of stuff because he had
I did no
he
there's a
had
lot of craziness. So
yeah he had a full-time job, and then he was doing this in addition. So
and
he
if
was working for the city back then. So
I imagine, and I'm thinking this lines up right, because Izzy, your oldest, again, for those who don't know you, is a little bit
Mhm.
older than Luke. And so I imagine when you step out of the interim, it has to be around the time you and Miranda started at least talking about having a family, if not already starting. And so I
Yeah,
imagine that's not a coincidence.
actually it's actually a few years after that. The main
Okay.
thing, and one of the bigger getting a youth minister was a huge point for me from stepping away from the position. That was kind of a big aspect. But the other one was is that yes, I had a full-time job as well, and I was actually still going to school because I'd finally decided what I wanted to do,
Mhm.
and I was in engineering. So when I was the interim, I actually took a pause in my academic career, and so
Oh, wow.
it's not necessarily that I was saying, "Hey, I really need to stop this," but there was a part of me that was like, "I really want to go finish school."
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna hit a fork in the road here one way or the other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and so now you are, I think, what is it? Right before I got here, they officially made you a youth and family deacon,
Hmm.
youth ministry deacon. So Junior's been the deacon working with our youth ministry, which means he gets to come to stuff like our game night Sunday, but then that means he doesn't have to stay and turn off all the lights and take out all the trash. He gets to go home. That is essentially what that I just felt like that really encapsulated that capacity.
Mhm.
You're at a lot of stuff, but you don't have to be in charge of all the stuff anymore. So you get to
Yeah.
kind of,
Mhm.
but Junior's also, and I don't say that in a diminishing way because Junior's also our constant Bible class teacher. Now that Rusty every now and then gets pulled into adult and especially the young adult stuff, ironically.
Mhm.
Um, but Junior is our go-to second Bible class teacher for the high school junior high right now. So that's very helpful. Obviously, I've been filling out those little rosters. You were going to say something. I kind of cut you off, but did you have another thought on just the deacon role there?
Yeah, no, that's kind of the it's been a huge blessing to have you guys here just because of those things that need to kind of happen. I mean, obviously, this isn't my job. I have a job, and
And a family.
we both have young families, and so there's a
Yeah.
lot of sacrifices that our family still, in a sense, kind of makes for a lot of those things to happen. But it's not into the degree that I would have had to have been making if you had not been in that position. Because I do, in a sense, get to leave early to help my wife put our kids to sleep after she's had her full day of work as well too. So it has been a huge blessing. I mean, there's kind of that aspect of wanting to do more, but at the same time, there's also I need to make sure I do right by my family as well. And that's been a huge helping and a blessing that it's having someone like you in your role. So
Oh man. Well, I appreciate it. It's not where I expected this to go, but
yeah.
that's nice. I appreciate that. I you and I have talked about this before, and I'll share this, and then we'll kind of shift gears here. But both of us, I think, are very similar in that sometimes our wives, who we love, have to pull us back and say, Um, I love that you have a heart to serve, but we have other things we need to do. Either as a family, or you need to be home more, or the kids are missing you. Not that we
Yeah.
don't love our children and love our family, but there's just that if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, can you do this?" You're like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
But when? How
No,
long? How long do you do?
that's actually a very funny story, just kind of showing that is that when I was the interim youth minister, I mean, I back then didn't have kids, so it was a little bit easier to be a little bit crazier in the afternoons or after church. But we probably did way more than we probably should have. I loved it. But one example is that we had a Sunday, we didn't have a snap, we didn't have an event or anything like that. And Miranda's like, "Hey, tonight, I'm kind of happy. We don't have anything planned. But maybe we can just relax." And then once church service ended that Sunday, one of the kids said, "Hey, let's go bowling." And I just instantly said, "Okay, yeah, let's go bowling." So
Yeah,
we
why
loaded
not?
up
Let's
the
go bowling.
and Miranda
Yeah,
was like, "Why?"
Why did you do that?
yeah.
And Miranda loved it. She enjoyed going bowling, but it was just one of that comical thing. It was
Yeah,
like
it's like
she started to realize that if we the kids are going to run all over me, our kids in
they,
particular, because I kind of cave to those things. It's like if they tell me, it's like, let's go bowling right now. I was like, all right, let's do it. Not scared to get on a bus and come home at
yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when Junior was in the youth group, um, that would happen with me. Junior or some of the guys would say, "Hey, let's go do this. Let's go do that." Go. "Hey, I'm gonna have to check with my wife, make sure we can do that." And he goes, "You got to check with your wife. I can't believe you. Who's in
Who's this guy?
charge?" You know,
This guy loves his wife. What a loser.
Yeah.
Rusty's
Especially high
got to
school
check with
kids.
his wife. So
Yeah.
yeah, so sometimes we got to do it. Sometimes I didn't go. So yeah.
And the parents know this, but for anyone, I guess kids who might be listening or hear this later, that is often just code for "I don't really want to go." Right? Can
Well,
we
it
say
can
that?
be.
That is
It
sometimes
can be,
code
but
for
there's other
"I
times
don't really
when
know if I want to do this." Yeah, I
I
got to check and see. And the
but
kids become an easy excuse for that too, for
I'm
social gatherings of like, "Oh, we just can't," busy with the
yeah.
kids and stuff.
So So Junior knows this about me. I'm the guy. So my grandkids are here this week. And so I've been playing all week long. I'm injuring myself as I play, but I love to play. And so it's not that I didn't want to go necessarily, though sometimes that was probably true. But it was just like, man, if I just go, I'm going to be in trouble. I just need to make sure, that there's not something else going on, or, these are extra things. It's like, it's not that I wasn't already working with the kids. It's just
Right.
that these are some extra things that, people wanted to throw out there. Hey, let's do this too. I appreciated the fact they wanted to get together, but it wasn't going to be helpful to me to do that every time. So,
Well, and you say there are extra things, but that's really gets to the heart of the challenge of ministry and any form of serving. Really, is what is really extra,
yeah.
right? Because everything, if you're doing it right, from bowling to Popeyes, can be ministry, right?
Uh-huh.
It is time spent with the kids, is time
Right.
pouring into them, or just loving on them. So that's the challenge: is where do you draw the line of what is extra and what isn't? Because
Uh-huh.
it can consume all of it. Any serving, helping profession can
Mhm.
consume all your time if you let it, for sure.
Yeah, so extra for me would have been beyond the calendar, beyond what was already scheduled on the calendar. That's what I meant.
Anything
So,
not already on the calendar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. We will talk about Joseph running away naked.
Perfect.
What? It's okay. I don't think that was
So
the
our
title of the sermon.
I don't know. I'll ask Mitch. I'll see if that was the subtitle.
Mhm.
So our sermon Sunday, Mitch is not here to talk about it, so we can be extra critical since he's not listening. No, we won't challenge him with anything too hard since he's not here to answer for himself. But Sunday was running in holiness. We continued our series talking about holiness in motion. Some of the active verbs as it has to do with holiness. It was climbing, kneeling, things like that. And so this week was running in holiness. And I'm curious if you guys had any things that came to your mind just when you heard that title. Did you have stories that you kind of thought maybe he would go to that he didn't, or did he go kind of where you thought he might? I'm curious where y'all brain went when you just heard running in holiness.
I had no preconceived ideas.
Oh, that's probably the
Literally, I
healthiest way
was
to
not,
hear a
my
sermon.
mind did not go anywhere prior.
Well,
So,
I ask because so my first thought was, oh, I bet we'll talk about Jonah. Right?
oh,
That's, to
okay.
me, when you hear about someone talking about just running from God, that was my first thought was like, oh, like maybe like Jonah, or um really, and I'm not just saying this because this is what happened, but I have either heard a lesson or have maybe just had someone point out to me before the running that the father does to his son.
Mhm.
And so I kind of wondered if he was going to go there.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, my first thought was Jonah, but Jonah would have been, in hindsight, an example of running in unholiness, I suppose. And so Mitch actually managed to find a passage where someone is running away in a way that is holy. Most of the time, running away is a bad thing. Most of the time, running is running from God, and that is viewed as a bad thing. But he found a passage where running is actually a good thing, and it's running away from the sin or running away from temptation. And so he jumps in with Genesis 39, which is the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. And I got to say, the more he got into it, the more I was just like, boy, this is a weird passage to start off a Sunday morning on. Of him, when he reads that passage where he read out loud that the wife said, "Sleep with me, come lay with me."
Mhm.
I was like, boy, this is that's an unusual quote for Sunday morning.
Well, but the kids had already gone to children's worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we did have children's worship
We
Sunday. That's
did,
right.
yes.
Ours were at home with the
Oh,
grandparents. So that's a good point. That's a good point. He did pick it on a children's worship Sunday, which is always maybe a good consideration for stuff like that.
right.
Um, I don't know. Have y'all ever heard of any other teaching, at least in a sermon sense, from that passage?
And a funny, to me, it's not completely, it's not necessarily running, but it's always been a really important part that I try to remember, just because I've been known to be someone that can be aggressive, and someone that is, the idea is like, I'm willing to die on every anthill. And
Okay.
there's kind of
All
an
right.
issue
All right.
that and Jesus is the perfect example, because I feel like flipping the tables is always just an example of like, this allows us to be aggressive when we need to be aggressive.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
what
I would agree.
the honest truth, though, is that Jesus was at the temple and then he went home before he did anything like that. So, in a
Uh-huh.
sense, before he acted, he retreated in a sense to really contemplate. Or, I mean,
Right.
I'm
He
just kind of
thought
throwing
through
out
it.
there.
Right.
He thought through it before he, in a sense, did that, and that, in the same way, in the same vein as to me, just because I feel like a lot of people's reaction is to stand up and be righteous, and in the reality, that's kind of can be a conflict, just because the intent and the desire is to be holy, but the action ends up being unholy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that. So you're saying because you feel like your instinct is to be a little bit more aggressive and to sometimes your first play in the book is to flip tables because of this passage stands out. So you remember this passage more because of that, or what was the connection there? Help me.
Yeah, no, just kind of enjoy. It's something for me to just kind of, if I'm going to fight on every question or every comment or anything like that, the real thing that I try to ask myself is like, why am I doing that?
Uh-huh.
Um, and we can kind of go into a sense of it goes kind of into the Joseph and how he's viewed in Islam. But there is kind of this idea of how if I'm gonna want to fight, I want to fight. I guess that's the honest thing is that I
Okay.
want to fight, and the way
Your
that
instinct is to fight, not to run.
yeah, my instinct is, and
Okay.
I feel like I was encouraged. It's like you should fight for what is right, and
True.
kind of the
True.
mindset is look at Joseph and kind of look at Jesus. Their attitude is at the end of the day, Jesus fought for what was right, but it
True.
wasn't just instantly decide. You know what? I'm going to right now in my anger, in my frustration of everything I'm
Mm.
seeing. Now I'm going to fight. Um,
Yeah. He calls his shots and picks his battles a little bit more. He doesn't.
yeah,
I like the way you phrase that. That sometimes you have a habit of dying on every anthill. That's kind of funny. I I don't think we've found ourselves in opposition yet, maybe I should say, but on anything. So I found that kind of surprising when you say that because I guess I just know you as more easygoing. But I can see that now that you mentioned it, I can see that just because I can tell you're passionate about a lot of things. And so you have the tendency to get kind of maybe fiery. I don't know. But I can see where you're coming from with that.
Junior does like to argue. He likes to argue for fun.
I do.
He
Yeah.
does for fun.
Oh
So
boy.
like, no, I mean, so
I wish I could say
for
I can't
him,
relate, but
yeah. So him, it is fun to do that. He's not doing it to really be a pain in the neck or whatever. But he likes to debate issues and stuff. So,
no,
and
I
some
feel that.
people like to do that. But in our culture, we're encouraged to everything that we see. We're supposed to make a judgment about whether it's good or bad, and then we need to jump on whoever it is we don't agree with. It's kind of
Yeah, I mean, I see what you
so
mean in terms of just having an opinion or a comment on
well, but
everything
it's
with
not
the
just
social
that.
media
It's
era
it's
sort of
that
thing.
idea of if you're silent, then you're part of the problem. You are making the
Oh,
problem
true.
worse.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I can see
yes,
that.
there is truth in that statement, but that doesn't mean you have to argue for everything that comes down the pike.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what Junior said about the example of Jesus is that, yes, he does run to the table and flip the temples one day,
Yeah.
but he does that once,
He does
and
it
he fights with
once.
the Pharisees
He does,
on
and he
every
thinks about
single
it.
page of his life.
Right, and he thinks about it all night long before. He goes
Yeah,
back, makes the whip, and then comes back to do it. I mean, you think
yeah.
about that,
I
that
have heard
sounds kinda
someone comment on
crazy.
that before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's the way Mark describes it, that he
Yeah.
comes in, he looks around, he sees it, he goes back. It doesn't say that he made a whip them. I think it might be John that does that, um, but what he does is he makes it and then comes back and then uses it.
yes, because I've heard someone comment that like, do you know how long that takes? They said
Yeah.
that's 5 words in the verse, but they said that's not something you just do. That's Jesus sitting here like
He's
with the
working
straps
on
of
it.
leather, braiding it, and he's
Yes.
clearly keeping that same level of heatedness about what he just saw the entire time. And they compared
Yeah.
it to sort of a Christ-like whittling down the spear of like or sharpening the knife or cleaning the gun sort of
Yeah.
thing, where the whole time they're doing it, they're very angry about what they're about to go do.
But it's a picture of God's judgment too. I mean, we're getting
Oh
off
yeah.
track
Oh yeah.
of, we're kind of getting off track of what the sermon was, but
Yeah.
that
Or
that
yeah.
is an image of God's judgment. And it, the judgment came.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, and we are a little bit, but this gets to one of the questions I had for you guys, which was, Junior, you've hinted this, and we're kind of talking about it through Jesus's example. But how do y'all perceive differently the scriptural commands in different places, both to fight temptation versus flee temptation? Mitch referenced the 2 or 3 passages that mention fleeing temptation. Obviously, there's other places we could go to about fighting temptation, and I'm curious what you guys think about that, or how you feel like maybe that has manifested differently in your lives, of this idea of wrestling with, grappling with temptation versus Joseph's example of just running from it.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the reason I brought up the whole, because once again, if I'm willing to argue on anything and everything, there is kind of that need for me to understand, like, why argue in the first place? Why am I trying to ruin someone's day? And that's why this is kind of that scenario. It's like just kind of looking at you. It's like, I gotta have a purpose. I can't just go in there. So for me,
Yeah.
that to avoid that temptation to kind of get away from it is just, it's trying to prevent myself from that. Um, can you ask the first part of that question again? I
I
don't
was just
wanna.
kinda curious how you guys kind of view or interpret the different commands of, what does it look like to fight temptation versus what does it look like to flee
Yeah,
from it? And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
and
I follow you.
yeah, and that's kind of thing. Because once again, I feel like I grew up in a small church. I grew up in the country. I went to a really small school, very much, America. I was even gonna join the military at one point in my life because in my mindset, like, I
Hmm.
wanna be a hero. I wanna save, and part of that was, the way to save is to fight. But unfortunately, I feel like some of that also kinda comes in just the way that we sometimes approach Christianity, and the idea is like, the only way to really save people is to fight. And
Boy, that is
there
a
are things,
fascinating observation.
mhm.
and I think there is things like, 'cause once again, at the end of the day, Jesus did flip a table, so I'm not necessarily just completely trying to, demoral or be against that, but there is kind of a mindset when we're just trying to fight any and everything because we feel like that is how we're going to save. I just don't see the holiness in that aspect of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Man, go ahead,
I
Rusty.
was just gonna say that, you know, the idea of saving people, one, Jesus is the savior. Now we may be mediators or ambassadors or whatever you wanna call it, um, but what saves us, I mean, what Jesus did to save us was an act of love,
Right.
and and if love is not involved in it, as 1 Corinthians 13 says, then it's not gonna amount to much. And
Mm,
sometimes our anger or our frustration with whatever evil we perceive, we may not respond to that in a loving way or that person in a loving way. We may respond to them as an enemy that we need to defeat. And that's not what God is calling us to do. Um, he is calling us to love. It doesn't mean that we agree with it. It doesn't mean that we cater to it, but our response is going to have to be very different when it comes to those things rather than just trying to defeat it.
Right.
Um, so, back to your question, there's a couple of passages that come to mind. So, one is 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, where Paul says, "No temptation has overtaken you except that which is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it." So God, the temptation isn't going to be so great that you have to succumb to it. He's going to provide a way of escape. Now, for Joseph, his way of escape was running out of the house. And
That's an interesting.
the thing about that
Yeah.
is the escape did not bring something at least good to Joseph himself at that time.
Right.
It put him
Yeah,
in a
you're
different situation that was difficult as well.
yeah, you're
S
going with exactly what I was with this
Yeah.
verse, in the sense that sometimes when we read that, we think, "Oh, uh, God is always gonna have a good answer."
Mhm.
And we'll say, "Oh, if you're being tempted or you're going through something, God is always gonna have a good answer." It's kinda the same way we sometimes interpret Romans 8:28, that, God will always work things out, and that's not
Yeah.
really what he says. And if
Yeah.
you look at biblical examples, that's not really what he does either.
Yeah.
And so I like that you highlighted that in this case, Joseph's way of escape was not the husband walking in and saying, "Ah, you crazy woman! How dare you
Yeah, I
accuse this
know.
righteous man of anything?
Even if
Go
he
away.
thought she was.
I'm
Yeah.
going to put
That's
you
not how he
away,
responded.
and I'm going to promote Joseph for his wonderful honesty right now." No, the way of escape was Joseph ran from it. And as Mitch pointed out, he ruined his reputation, he
Yes.
ruined his career, but he kept his holiness because he ran. He saw that way of escape in this case was literally getting up and running away.
Yeah.
It as he was kind of highlighting just that sometimes holiness is running.
Mhm.
I don't know if this is just because the phase of life I'm in or whatever, but just the other day, I was having a conversation with Luke, who's 4 and some change, about how, hey, there's a lot of things we can do. We can get upset. You know, you can take a deep breath. You can just kind of try and, gosh, I can't remember the other one, but one of them is, take a deep breath, count to 10. That was the big one.
Mhm.
Or sometimes you can just walk away, because we were trying to get him like, okay, you can't hit, you can't just scream, because lately our kids, both of them, because one of them sees the other do it, are in a phase where if they don't like something Priscilla and I are said, they just kind of scream at us. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, no, sorry.
So it's like, no,
I can't
you
understand
can't
that.
you can't hit your brother. You can't scream at us. And one of the things I'm trying to say is like, hey, you can just walk away. If you're upset, we have a big like we don't have that big of a house, but it's big enough that you can just go to another room. Like you can literally just go out of the situation and walk away. That is an acceptable response. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get mad at you for just walking away.
And
Right.
that's something that we've actually talked to Elizabeth a lot too, is the idea of like when Will is not, you can't handle the way Will is acting. There's no need for you to stay in the room
Yes.
and make it worse for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
But he's the one doing this to me. It's like, yes, but you're also just standing there.
Yeah.
You realize you
You
can be
can
anywhere
make
else in the world right
choices.
now.
Yes, you can
Yeah.
make choices, and you can make choices that would be helpful to you. The
You
other
have autonomy.
yes.
right?
The other part of that question that you had asked about standing or running, the
Yeah, fleeing and
example,
fighting.
I think one of the prime examples about standing against sin is what Jesus does when he's tempted in the wilderness. And so we see him going to Scripture and reminding himself of what Scripture has told him. And that is something that we have to do. We need to remind ourselves of what God has told us, and then use that to help guide us in how we're going to stand or whether we are going to flee. So,
That's a fascinating point.
yeah. So,
Jesus is tempted, and he recognizes he's in sort of a spiritual warfare, right? So he
Yeah.
responds in kind. Like he responds with spiritual ammunition.
right.
I don't know if quoting the Torah would have done Joseph any good. So Joseph
No, yeah,
Joseph also responds in
He
kind
didn't
to the
have,
situation,
it
right?
wasn't going to do him any. In fact, he didn't have time to quote the Torah. He's like, get out of there now, because he had already been standing in a sense. She had come to him before,
Right. True.
and
Yeah.
now she's like, I'm not going to take no for an answer, and so he has no choice if he wants to remain faithful except to run.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
an interesting.
yeah.
Bringing up
And
Jesus' temptation in the wilderness is an interesting comparison. I like that.
Yeah. The other thing that's really that people have a hard time with is the fact that what we're told, the reason he goes in, that the Spirit leads him into the wilderness to be tempted.
Right. Right.
And so we struggle with that because why would the Spirit lead him into the wilderness to be tempted? We're not given an answer. We're just told that's what happens. But
Yeah. Why did the Spirit lead him to temptation?
Yeah.
If that's the implication there.
Right. So now you can speculate on a lot of different things. We won't get into all that, but yeah, that's so Jesus
No,
was. He was
speculation is
tempted.
fun.
It is, but we might not get to the other stuff though today.
We'll follow Junior's advice to himself and not die on every anthill as far as the
Yes,
speculation is
yeah.
concerned.
Unless we
I
want
did want to
to.
come back to something, Junior, because you said that the Quran views Joseph differently. And not, obviously it's not scripture, but for those who are not familiar, Islam shares a lot of the Abrahamic history with parts of the Old Testament, so there's a lot of overlap. So I'm curious, so how is it different? What do they say?
Yeah, so the main thing is that they don't want to paint Joseph in a bad light at all. So they omit so kind of like the dream sequence that we all kind of acknowledge is like, Joseph, you should have not done that. where he has the dream from Jesus and he goes and like tells his brothers. And it's
Oh,
like,
yeah, yes, yes.
why would you do that? So
How did you think this was gonna end, buddy?
yeah, so
Yeah.
they omit a lot of those mistakes that make him more human,
Huh.
and they make him look even more uprighteous and more holy. Like all these bad things that are happening to him, he doesn't even deserve them. They're
Right,
just kind of
yeah.
happening to him, more like a Job scenario. And specifically with the wife scenario, it is not as he just runs away. He does try to leave in the way that, but very short. The mindset was is that they get caught while he's still in the house. So the husband is
Mhm.
at the door when he's trying to leave. And part of the whole thing is once again to make him look better, they have this whole they talk about how the husband acknowledges that his shirt is ripped from the back, not from the front, symbolizing that he was trying
Was
to
turning.
leave.
Okay,
Mhm.
He's
interesting.
turning, he's leaving, and she is the one trying to pull him in into this temptation. So in the same vein, but at the same time, it doesn't make him look cowardly because it actually tries to make him look more of like, I am conquering this, I am leaving.
Mhm.
But not he didn't, flee. He didn't run away. He was uprighteous, walking away, and that's when she ripped the shirt. And a very like a soap opera type of mindset. The husband walks in right at that moment,
Right, is
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
and it's more of the husband is going to save his reputation and his wife's reputation than having an anger towards Joseph. So
Mhm.
once again, it's
that's
more of
interesting.
he's done nothing wrong.
Well, not only has he done nothing wrong, but also it it fits telling it that way fits better with views of men and women and husband and wife and masculinity kind of thing, right? Uh,
Mhm.
that she was the temptress, she was the, whatever, but he didn't fall to it, but he still did the righteous manly thing and stood his ground kinda deal.
Right? Yeah.
And all the men in this situation figured out that the woman was a temptress, and they banished her, right? Like, it
They didn't banish her. They more, in a sense, protected the family reputation. So they
Mhm.
punished him to save their skin and not look bad. But no, it was
interesting.
just one of those things of just acknowledging like how much they do not want to paint him in a bad light whatsoever.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it kind of goes the whole subject of running away is it doesn't look great. A lot of people would almost consider it extremely cowardly
Yeah,
to not go to these stuff. And then once again with Joseph, they just cut that part out because it doesn't look good.
doesn't
We
feel
should
good.
be yeah
Yeah.
we should be strong and firm and never budging towards anyone that could cause us to do wrong. I guess
Oh.
so.
Yeah, and if, we have regularly in our comments appealed to Jesus' example of not fighting, but just sort of dealing with something, responding the way we look repeatedly at how Jesus responds to his aggressors. And not to get totally off on this subject, but I think we could see a pretty big difference between how Jesus has shaped the Christian should shape the Christian response to that sort of aggression versus maybe how that different perspective has shaped maybe the Islam Muslim response in that same vein, a little different.
Yeah.
Little different response to the same situation, I would say. Um, Rusty, did you have one more thing before we
Nope.
shift to the prodigal son?
Nope. Let's shift.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, so this was like I said, this was one of the ones that I wondered if he was going to go to this, and because I had somebody point out before that that the father runs to the son, and I don't remember where this was. It may have been, I think it's Henry Nouwen has a really good book on the prodigal son, and I believe he makes the same comment Mitch made that dignified men don't run, and so this detail of him sort of hiking up his robe and running to the son is actually a very powerful cultural statement. But I love that he went to this passage because there are some passages that we've heard the story so many times, and I referenced Jonah earlier, so I guess I'll go back to that. Jonah is one of those I've read it. I'm not going to say I can't learn anything more because God's word is beyond human understanding in ways, and so I'm not going to say I can't learn more. But I've heard it a lot, and I would be surprised if I heard a lesson from Jonah at this point in my life that revealed some totally new thing to me that I had not thought about before. So, as arrogant as that sounds, forgive me. I'll move past it. But meanwhile, there are certain passages And the Good Samaritan is one of these to me. The Prodigal Son is one of them. That yes, they're cliched, and yes, they've been told 1,000 times, but for whatever reason, the Prodigal Son, it still just hits me. Like the emotion of this story still hits me every time I read it. And I don't know if you guys share that perspective or not, but it's a very powerful emotional story. It's very evocative. It's meant to be the way that it's told. It's kind of supposed to really make you feel a certain way, but it does for me, man. Every time I study it, I still feel like I'm kind of feeling the emotions of hearing it for the first time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, the I want to say it's actually more recently than not, but the the focus on the other brother, and
Mm.
honestly, like I have found myself to be that the other
Hmm.
brother versus the prodigal son, I guess, in that mindset, which we all can probably relate to one aspect of
Yeah.
that story
Oh
in
yeah.
our lives or later, and that's always been kind of a big one to me because once again, it's just how the father, once again, the mindset of running, the putting himself in a position that people would consider disrespectful, not disrespectful, but beneath him. There's no reason
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
The brother wasn't running.
Mhm.
No. No.
The
No.
the brother was,
The brother is doing the masculine thing. Like, ugh, who is this
yeah.
guy?
Well, and not just that, but as soon as he gets there and finds out that his brother is home and safe, he still is angry about it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily. I mean, if the church acted this way, I would have a hard time with it, which I don't think we do. But is there a level of sometimes that we see people that in that once again, unfortunately, do we find ourselves in that brother scenario where we're in a sense angry,
Oh
angry
yeah.
that we
Oh
didn't
yeah.
humiliate. I don't think that, and like I said, I the reason I'm here with this church is because I know we're not perfect, but I've seen a lot of attempts to at least make an effort to be more godlike than anything else. And that is
Right.
just kind of sometimes just making sure that we can kind of call ourselves out and making sure that we're not being arrogant, we're not being over the top, angry because someone that we think is irredeemable has been redeemed.
Mm.
I think that as you look through these stories that we're so familiar with, sometimes what might be helpful to us is to put ourselves in that position of that person, whatever
Oh
that
yeah.
person is, and what are they feeling? Why do they feel this way? It doesn't go into great detail on the descriptions, like when it talks
Yeah.
about the son who has gone away, it tells us stuff like he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, or
Hmm.
he came to his senses, and he does reason, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? Here I am starving to death. But it doesn't go into the day to day. How did he feel? What was he thinking? What was happening? Um,
Right.
so if I was there, what would I feel like? If I was the older brother, what would I actually feel like? As Junior, as you were talking, it made me think of our grandkids that were here. And what you hear all the time, and you guys have heard this with your kids, it's not fair. That's
Yeah.
not fair. Well, that's
Oh
exactly what
yeah.
he was doing. He was telling his
Yeah.
dad, speaking as an
Right.
adult, saying, it's not fair.
And he's
And
right in some
I
sense.
know it's not. It's not fair, but you got to deal with it.
Mm.
Life is not going to be fair. And there is something going on here that you are completely missing, that his
Yes.
father sees. And so, um, and because the oldest son's perspective is very, very different from the father's perspective.
Hmm.
Well,
So,
and this was not really in our notes from this, but I'm glad you mentioned it. The cry of the older brother is that it's not fair.
yeah.
And Junior, you highlighted this, and you were there when I gave the Devo at Snap Sunday night. My Devo at Snap Sunday night just kind of built on some thoughts that I had from this passage, just as a reaction to Mitch's lesson, because, like I said, it does always resonate with me. And I believe it's that same Henry Nouwen book that points out we are all each of these figures at some different points in our life.
Hmm.
And when I was younger, I was right there with you that I definitely felt at times like the older brother, where one, maybe because I was literally an older brother, but maybe also just uh, felt like I grew up in the church, felt like I, at least when I was younger, had kind of always done what was right, and would be bothered sometimes by the grace shown to others. And so it resonated with me. it very much resonated with me at that phase of life I was in. Well, fast forward a few years, I have absolutely found myself in the shoes of the prodigal son. When certain aspirations and visions and plans I had for my life did not go the way I wanted them to, and had to kind of come home with my tail tucked between my legs a little bit on some issues, and was blessed to be in the position to receive the grace and forgiveness of others. And so there's something going on in this context. If we zoom out a little bit and we look at the rest of Luke 15 and we look at Luke 16, something I love about certain translations, I don't remember who introduced the word prodigal, but the title of this section in most of them is the parable of the lost son. And so it fits with the lost coin, the lost sheep, the lost coin,
Yeah.
and the lost son. And then immediately after that in Luke 16 is the parable of the shrewd or dishonest manager, which is, the king forgives the master of a servant so many denarii, so much money, and then the servant goes and beats the life out of another servant who owes him almost nothing. You know what? I just realized I'm mixing these stories up. That is not what this story is about. The next passage is about being faithful in much, being faithful over
Right.
little, and the rich man and Lazarus and kingdom values. Well, never mind. Forget everything I just said. But
I know what
I was totally wrong.
well, I mean, they're in a funny way. There's a lot of this, like, I mean, there's several farming stories. There's several,
Yeah.
and so it's kind of the same
There's
thing.
a lot of managers and slaves.
Yeah,
Jesus
there's a
is
lot of
parable.
that.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
got your parables mixed up. That's true. This was the sneaky.
but
this was the sneaky manager here.
Yes.
Yes.
So his point, though, with the older brother is Rusty. You said the cry of the older brother is it's not fair.
Yes.
But what Jesus is trying to show us is that what you think is fair, is totally irrelevant, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm Jesus.
Right.
But B, is not really what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
We're not trying to do this thing where what you think everybody deserves is what they should get. And so he's trying to show them that in the kingdom, when the sheep is lost and comes home, it doesn't matter that the 99 didn't run away. The shepherd rejoices. When the woman loses a coin, she rejoices because of the value of the coin she's found. When a son comes to his senses and has been gone forever and ever, and he comes home, the father slaughters the fatted calf because he says, my son was lost and now he's found. And what you, older brother guy out there, think is fair or not fair doesn't even matter. Like, that is totally not the point of this situation. And
this
Yeah.
is in response to, as Jesus is talking, and the Pharisees and teachers of the law listen to him. What they say is, this man is welcoming sinners and he's eating with them. Why is he doing this? And what Jesus eventually gets to with these stories is that the father is welcoming his son back, who is a sinner,
Yeah.
who has basically told his father, I don't care whether you're alive or dead. I just want the money. Give me the stuff that I want, that you're supposed to give to me. I want to live my life and do things my way. Then he finally comes to his senses and realizes that what he really needs is to be with his father. And that's the story of us when it comes to what we need. We need God. We want to make our own decisions. We want to do our own things. We don't want to worry about all the stuff that God, wants us to consider. And then when we realize that we hit bottom, just like the son, hopefully what we do is we come back to God. And other people who have, quote, been faithful may look at that and say, why? They need to be punished. They need to learn their lesson. We need to teach them something. That's what that's where the older son is coming from. And the father is, I am so glad that you're back.
Right.
And so holiness, who's the father or God, holiness runs to the sinner who is in need.
Yes.
And because of that, we can become holy too. God loves us that much that he wants to run to us. The thing is, will we come back to him?
Yeah.
So,
There is a funny, in a way to kind of view it as how the story could be so different. Just to the people that he's telling them to. It's
yeah.
almost in the sense of like, hey, here's the terrible son. Here's the terrible things he did. Here's how it's terrible. That story could have ended with him.
He's terrible.
He's a terrible person. He died, and the land is holier now because this terrible person is dead.
Yes.
And there might have been people in the crowds like, "Oh, please kill off this son. This is a
Yeah,
terrible
yeah.
He
character."
doesn't deserve the money.
Seriously, the
Why are you
Jews were
even
probably
giving it
going,
to
all
him?
right, when is he going to get what he deserves? He's going to die penniless,
When
just
is he
like
going to
his
get
dad.
what he deserves?
Any moment
Yeah.
now, any
Yeah.
moment now. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a
but
good
you're
point.
right. Like it's kind of going back to like that. The holiness comes from the Father coming back and running to Him
Yeah.
and giving that, and that's something that um, a lot of the stuff that when I've been talking to the kids is just kind of, and I'm not trying to, but I'm just letting them know. It's like, unfortunately, you're a human and you're gonna mess up. Um,
Yeah.
and that is the sad truth. But always realize that these doors here at this church, with Terrance, Rusty, myself, we mentioned a ton of people, but the idea is like we're here to accept you because we have also failed.
Yes.
It is
Right.
not because
Yeah.
we're
Right.
perfect, and that's something to hear. Just because there might be, in a sense, a desire for perfection in children to see them not mess up the way that we did,
Oh,
but
yeah.
just at the end of the day, man, the world's going to be the same as it was back when Jesus was there, before
Mhm.
Jesus. It's at the end of the day, the people are going to mess up.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. And how we respond to when they mess up is so much more important
Mhm.
than trying to enforce this view of reality where nobody does.
Mhm.
And I think that's what the Jews were kind of set on is no one can ever make a mistake. If you are Jewish, you do not make a mistake. No mistakes. No mistakes if you're Jewish. We are the children of Abraham. We are the children of Israel. We do not make mistakes. And it's almost like Jesus is trying to tell them, actually, how you respond when people make mistakes is going to be way more important than making sure nobody ever makes them. Because guess what?
Mhm.
That's a futile effort. People are going to do it. And
Right.
I think the same could be said, as you pointed out, of the context of parents and children is if you tell them you need to never make a mistake, they're going to probably grow up with a lot of issues. We would just say, like in
Oh,
short, the
yeah. No doubt.
family therapy would say they're going to grow up with a lot of issues. But if
Mhm.
you can teach them and show, and more importantly, show them through your actual actions, hey, you are surrounded by a loving community that will embrace you and comfort you and help you. And importantly, help you make less of them still. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but who will comfort you and help you when you make mistakes. That's way more important.
You know,
The goal
I
is not to, yeah. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry,
No, go
Rusty.
ahead, Junior.
No, yeah, the goal is not to teach them that mistakes are okay. The goal is
Right.
that we can't that it's not the end of the story because a mistake has been made.
Right.
Because at the end of
Right.
the day, it is still a mistake.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so with parents, a lot of times what what parents don't realize is that seeking forgiveness and offering forgiveness are two really, really important things to have in your, you could say,
Mm,
discipline arsenal. Because
yeah.
you as parents, we as parents have to seek forgiveness because sometimes we mess up. And our kids need to learn how to seek forgiveness, but they also need to learn how to forgive. And the same thing is true in leadership. A lot of times what we think as leaders is that people need to feel sorry. We need to be able to see remorse from them before we can forgive them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the father hadn't heard anything from the son. All he saw was that he was walking toward the property, right? He hadn't heard any words from his son. And in fact, he doesn't even let his son hardly speak. He is just excited that he is back. And so I remember many, many years ago when people would go forward, one of the questions was, are they really sorry for this?
Right.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
And that
Oh,
is,
yeah.
I get where the question's coming from, but it's really not the question that we need to ask. Or if they didn't go forward in front of everybody, then were they really remorseful enough? Did they really suffer enough to
Right.
be given forgiveness? That is not what God is calling us to, not in our response. And so um, he ran to his son. And my guess, the picture that I have in my mind is the son isn't running toward the father. The son is dreading the fact that he's gonna have to
Dragging
talk to
his
his
feet,
father. He's dragging his
slumped
feet. He's
shoulders.
got
Yeah.
everything planned out. He knows what he wants to say, and he starts to say it, but he has no idea how the father's gonna respond to him.
Right.
And so that's where this idea of offering grace and forgiveness is extremely important. Because if we are wanting to make sure the person feels bad enough first before they get that, then we are turning out to be their judge rather than the one who is helping them come back to God.
Right. Yeah, we have a very, I don't know, I guess you would say a penal view of justice, that it's very penalty,
Yeah,
uh, and part of that is probably
that's our
because of our actual,
culture.
like, legal justice system,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We think,
right.
there's 2 different philosophies on correction, not to get way off in the criminal justice waters here, but one of them is, retribution, right? That people need to
Mhm,
feel the punishment for their crimes. The other is correction, like,
mhm,
actual correction. Are you, and it's rehabilitation focused of, like,
right.
okay, are you fixing them and making them better so that when they go out, they don't commit more crimes? Or are
Mhm,
you punishing them so that they feel the penalty or the weight and the, really, as you said, the pain of the suffering they've inflicted? And I'm not totally sure what the answer is from a public policy
mhm,
standpoint, but at least in through Jesus, it's not about making someone suffer enough. And I love that you highlighted that that is
mhm,
absolutely in our thoughts because of the legal
mhm,
system. That have they gone through the pain I think they need to suffer through in order to, and really, unfortunately, I I think that's at least part of why we hold public confession in such a high regard. Like, I think as the church, I think there's at least an element of, as the audience, like, as the onlookers, not when
mhm,
we're the sinner, but, like, when we're on the onlookers, I think there's an element of, like, we want them to suffer through the public nature of repentance.
mhm,
I think consciously or subconsciously, there's a part of us that thinks, "No, no, no, they have to come forward publicly because it's hard." Well, Jesus doesn't tell us to confess our sins to one another because it's hard. He says, "Confess your sins to one another so that you'll be forgiven," and that's
mhm,
James. But the point of public confession is not because it's supposed to make you suffer publicly. It's so that people can love and support you. And to paint the fuller picture here, we do see the Father respond, like the order that I see in Luke 15 is the Father responds in love, but the Son does repent. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
does beg for forgiveness, and that's a pretty important, like, again, to paint the full picture,
Mhm,
that's a pretty important part of this story too, is he says, I've
sure.
sinned against you, I've wronged you, I realize that I have made a mistake, and as a result, the Father is overcome in forgiveness and
Mhm,
overwhelming in his grace and his love towards the Son. But we see he responds in love, the Son asks for forgiveness, and then we see the response of overwhelming grace and forgiveness.
mhm,
That was one of the other questions I just had for this section, and I'm glad you brought it up, was just how does this look compared to scenes of repentance in the church, you know? How does this compare to the
mhm,
way we often respond? How does this look like it, and I don't know, I think there are some things that if we started from scratch and did not necessarily just do this the way because we always done it, I don't know if we would handle really the invitation and sort of the altar call, public repentance thing the way that we do. Does that make
mhm.
sense?
Yeah.
I think we would make some tweaks to it a little bit. I don't know if we would necessarily do it the way we do
Mhm,
because I'm not sure that the way we currently do it really invites the most honest response sometimes.
mhm,
And I know that I'm getting into the heart of individuals and maybe overreading a lot of things. I'll say this positively. One thing I have been overwhelmed with since being at this church is the couple times, and this happened actually pretty shortly after Priscilla and I first got here. Either the first Sunday, maybe the Sunday we tried out, whatever it was, someone came forward and people came down and embraced them and loved them, and it didn't seem
mhm,
fake. It didn't seem like they were doing it because people expected them to do it. It seemed like there was a genuine response of, like, they wanted that person to know that they were loved and being prayed for and being cared about,
mhm.
and I love that. Um, I
Yeah,
wish I wish that there was something we could do that would invite that response more, like, even more, because I
right.
I think there's an element of, man, I've preached lessons that when I was preaching that I was like, "Man, if I was being honest, I would respond to my own invitation." If
Mhm,
people were being honest, just about half of us would come down to this one,
yeah.
you know?
There's when I was a youth minister, Encounter, the camp in Lubbock was probably they still did the invitation the same way as everybody else does, even the way we did it. But the difference was and while some of it was probably very emotion driven, and I get that with the kids, they would have tons of kids go forward after a
Mm,
lesson during worship after worship, but none of them went alone. I
hmm,
mean, they went like they'd walk up there and there'd be 2 or 3 friends with them, or maybe their whole youth group went with them, and their
Oh,
youth
dang.
minister met with them, and they were all praying. There would be somebody that would pray for all the people that went forward, at from the microphone. But I can guarantee you that there were a number of different groups in around the stage and just, um, I mean, they have a couple 100 kids up there, and they were all praying together. And those kids would, I think that for the most part, they were very, very sincere.
Yeah.
They felt that they had support, and they knew that they were loved. And what would typically happen at our services is if you went up, when you went forward, you would go by yourself, and an
Right.
elder or a minister would meet you. You would talk to them. They would make the announcement. You would sit by yourself, and then they
Right.
would pray for you.
Very isolating.
Right. And so that's not what we want to be. I agree with you. I think that what we're doing right now, when people come to meet them, and we even ask people to come down and
Yeah.
lay their hands on them and pray for them, I think that's much, much better and much more helpful and much more biblical than what we have traditionally
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
And we probably even need to improve on that, I think, as far as making it more available for people who are thinking or wanting to share what they're struggling with, make it easier for them to do that.
Yeah, especially
So
people who are maybe just wanting to talk to a minister or a elder, but it not be this big public display, right?
right. Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I want prayers and I just want to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
Well, we
Junior,
will
I think Junior was gonna say something. You look like
No,
you're
I
gonna
mean,
say something.
I just the encounter aspect of it. I mean, you brought it up. It was that mindset of just how much that we were still singing. There was still
Yeah, they
someone
were
up there
still
leading
singing.
songs,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there was just so much of it
Mhm.
that it took like an invitation that we would think would probably last maybe a couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes
Mhm.
in a long capacity. I mean, sometimes those things felt like they lasted more than an hour just
Yeah,
because
it
of how
felt like
much.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah.
But that was an opportunity, and once again, the overall aspect of how you after a while, it kind of seemed like you need to take someone with you to help you go through
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
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 So
Hmm. Well, we can reinvent the wheel and the invitation maybe next week.
Okay.
yeah,
But no, I like that you said there's some things that are good and better than it used to be, but maybe some things that can still be a little different.
Mhm.
I do want to shift gears a little bit into what's coming up next week because I know Junior. I appreciate you joining us. I know you've got, as you mentioned, family and work responsibilities, but I appreciate you joining us. We've loved getting to talk to you. I hope people have enjoyed listening to it as much as I have enjoyed talking to you guys, especially just hearing some of your stories from youth
they all turned it
ministry.
off as soon as they saw me.
They fast forwarded the first 30 minutes just to
Eh.
um I will tell us. So I talked to Mitch. I did get a teaser of what's coming up next week. He said next week is the last week of Holiness in Motion. It is serving in holiness, which seems to be the perfect ender if we think about what holiness truly means and some of the
Mhm.
examples in the New Testament of serving. So
Yeah.
stick with us next week for one more on the Holiness in Motion of serving in holiness. And I want to take a couple minutes here with you guys to talk about some community events. We got some events on the calendars coming up. Obviously, this week is spring break. Maybe I'm the only one, but I feel the weight of inching closer to LTC with every passing day. and Junior is one of our coaches. I think feels the relief of the light at the end of the tunnel of LTC being over and Sundays being back. Um, that is, of course, Easter weekend. So LTC is actually the 3rd to the 5th of April. But March 29th, I did want to go and let people know. This will be on the calendar shortly, but March 29th, Sunday evening, we'll have our LTC showcase coming up. We'll have more details on that in the next few days, I think. But LTC showcase. And, one more thing that Jane and I also just got on the calendar is we are doing like a family Easter egg thing. It's the weekend after LTC. So this is breaking news a little bit to everybody. We'll have some
That's
more announcements coming out about
the
this.
12th. That
It
That
is the
we or a
11th,
Saturday, the
actually.
11th on
It is a
Saturday
Saturday.
the 11th.
It's
Okay.
Saturday, roughly 10 to noon, 10:30,
Okay.
12:30, somewhere around there. We're gonna have some snacks, some activities, and an Easter egg hunt. So
Mm-hmm.
we decided I say a few months ago, but I guess it's been a while, somewhere between a month and a year ago, that uh, Jana and I really wanted to do more things that intentionally engaged our
Mm-hmm.
community. Because when you drive up to the church,
Mm-hmm.
you pass, I would probably say hundreds at this point of houses, most of which are new.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to figure out as a church how we can really engage our immediate neighbors and our immediate community. And so trying to do 3 to 4 events a year that are super community focused. And that's not to the neglect of the church. We want the church to be there because the point is to bring the community in to meet people from the church. So we hope our church families will join us for that as well. But hopefully we'll meet some new people and get some kids and families in here.
All right. Great.
Well, y'all, once again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank y'all out there for listening and just in taking another episode, another week of our podcast. We hope to see you Sunday.